Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about something pretty startling, a chain reaction that can happen inside our own bodies. We're going to unpack how a problem in just one organ can set off a cascade of failures, leading to a total system breakdown.
So how in the world does that happen? How can one single issue spiral out of control and take down the whole system? Well, to really get it, we first have to understand the story of what goes wrong when our bodies get sick.
And that brings us to this big word, pathophysiology. Now, don't let it intimidate you. At its core, it's just the story of dysfunction. It's not just about what's broken, but how it breaks and what else it takes down with it. Think of it as the blueprint for the very domino effect we're about to explore.
And for so many people, this whole story of system failure starts with a condition that's incredibly common, diabetes. This right here, this is where that first domino gets lined up, just waiting for a push.
So what's going on here? Well, it all starts with the body's failure to control blood sugar. This leads to blood glucose levels that are chronically high, a state we call hyperglycemia. You can almost think of all that extra sugar as this slow-acting corrosive poison that's just circulating through your entire body, quietly damaging this intricate network from the inside out.
And this image does a fantastic job of showing just how widespread that damage really is. See, high blood sugar isn't picky. It doesn't just go after one thing. It attacks on multiple fronts. But for our chain reaction, for the story we're telling today, we really need to zoom in on that one critical organ, the kidneys. So let's do that. Let's take a closer look and see exactly how this constant bath of high sugar blood wages a direct and really devastating assault on one of our body's most important filtration systems. This isn't a single event, It's a relentless, multi-pronged attack on these tiny, delicate filters inside the kidneys called nephrons. The excess sugar is basically forcing the kidneys to work way too hard, while at the same time it's gumming up the machinery. It's a recipe for a systematic breakdown. And this breakdown really happens in stages. First up is hyperfiltration. The kidneys are forced to filter way more blood than they're designed to, which just wears out the filters. Then you get these things called advanced glycation end products, or AGs for short. It's when sugar molecules literally stick to proteins, making them inflammatory and causing scarring. Third, a hormonal system that controls blood pressure, the RAAS, goes into overdrive, cranking up the pressure inside the kidney. And finally, after all that abuse, the nephrons themselves, they just scar over and begin to fail.
And the outcome of all that damage is exactly what you might think: chronic kidney disease. At this point, the kidneys just can't do their job anymore. They can't filter waste properly, and, this is huge, they can't regulate the body's fluid levels. And this failure creates a massive system-wide problem that's about to get a whole lot worse.
Okay, so just think about this for a second. The body's main fluid regulator is now offline. The entire circulatory system gets thrown into total chaos. The pressure inside all of our blood vessels just starts to climb and climb and climb. It's a really good question. How does a failing kidney actively cause high blood pressure? Well, it's a fascinating and incredibly destructive process. The damaged kidneys, in their failing state, actually create a 1-2 punch that cranks up the pressure.
Here's how it works. First, because the kidneys can't get rid of sodium and water, the total amount of fluid, of blood in your body, actually goes up, right? More liquid in the same set of pipes means higher pressure. But at the exact same time, that RAS system we talked about is still going haywire, telling your blood vessels to constrict and tighten up. So you have more fluid and smaller pipes. It is the absolute perfect storm for dangerously high blood pressure, or what we call hypertension.
And this is where things get really vicious. Take a look at this diagram because it shows how this isn't a one-way street. It's a destructive feedback loop. The diabetes damages the kidneys, the damaged kidneys cause high blood pressure, and then that high blood pressure turns right back around and further hammers the kidneys while also making the diabetes harder to control. Each condition literally feeds the others. It's a downward spiral.
And as this destructive loop spins faster and faster, two of our most critical organs, the heart and the brain, are put directly in the line of fire. They're basically living downstream from all of this chaos and pressure.
This quote really says it all, doesn't it? That constant, relentless, hammering pressure is just brutal to the delicate blood vessels that feed our brain. It weakens their walls, it promotes blockages, it's setting the stage for a total catastrophe.
And this slide shows the two main ways that catastrophe can happen. On the left, hypertension can lead to a blockage, an ischemic stroke. It helps build up plaque until a clot forms and starves part of the brain of oxygen.
On the right, it can cause a weakened blood vessel to just burst, a hemorrhagic stroke, a bleed inside the brain. Both outcomes are absolutely devastating.
And get this, roughly 85% of all strokes are the blockage kind, those ischemic strokes. And that is a condition that gets put on the fast track, directly accelerated by the damage caused by both diabetes and hypertension.
But it's not just the brain. What about the heart? Well, the heart is a muscle, and like any muscle that's constantly overworked, it gets exhausted. Imagine having to push blood against that incredible resistance 24/7. Eventually, the hard muscle weakens or stiffens, and it just can't pump effectively anymore. That is heart failure.
Okay, so we've seen how all the dominoes fall, one after another in this terrible cascade of organ failure. But here's the good news. Here's the most important part. Understanding this cycle is the absolute first step to stopping it.
So let's look at this diagram one more time. But this time, instead of focusing on the destruction, let's look for the points of intervention. The key isn't just to treat the symptoms, it's to attack the cycle itself. And this is exactly how it's done. You aggressively manage blood sugar to protect the kidneys from that first hit. You control blood pressure with lifestyle changes and specific medications that protect the kidneys, the heart, and the brain. You focus on diet, physical activity, weight, you see? By targeting every single link in this chain, it is absolutely possible to stop this destructive cascade right in its tracks.
So we've seen the whole path. We've seen the damage cascade from high blood sugar to kidney failure to high blood pressure, and finally to the heart and the brain. And while it's true that we can intervene at every single one of those stages, the most effective strategy of all, it's to prevent that very first domino from ever tipping over in the first place.